Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lights Out F1 podcast. I am Matt Salmons. I'm joined this week by Callum McAvoy and Callum McAvoy only, where we're going to be talking about the Azerbaijan Grand Prix that has just happened. Bit of a strange doubleheader, this one, Azerbaijan, and then straight over to Canada. We're going to be looking ahead to Canada, not calendar. We're going to be looking ahead to Canada, and we are going to be talking about the calendar. That's probably why I said that, because we have got a little bit of calendar news, which came out this week. Very rare that we get, a big piece of news between, double headers, but we have got some this week to talk about. So obviously with good news comes bad news as well, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But first of all, Callum McAvoy is with me, as I've just mentioned. First of all, Callum, we obviously had Azerbaijan this weekend. It was also Le Mans as well. Which one took your fancy at the weekend?
Take a guess, Matt. Take a guess of what I chose to watch on Sunday.
F1?
Yes.
Yes, good man.
Because I'm paid to do so now. So.
Yeah, that is very true. And I suppose the site you write for, the newspaper you write for, don't cover Le Mans either.
Not yet. No, maybe one day I'll persuade them to. Though you never know. If I do a good enough job,
you never know. I mean, I made the horrendous mistake of going out on Friday night, which meant I was very tired and unable to pretty much watch any of the night action of Le Mans. And then I was at work on Sundays to pretty much miss the end. So I probably saw about one of the 24 hours. But never mind, there's always next year and the virtual ones, which seem to be happening as well, which can sometimes be a little bit interesting. But enough of that. Let's talk about the Azerbaijan Grand Prix that we've just seen. Qualifying, not the most dramatic qualifying session we've probably ever seen. Charles Leclerc took pole. You predicted that and were spot on.
Yeah, I mean, Ferrari have the quickest car on the grid. I think that's kind of been established now. At least over one lap in the race, I think Red Bull probably have the edge, as we'll get to a bit later on. But yeah, surprising. I didn't actually watch quali. I can't remember what I was doing on Saturday afternoon.
Watching Le Mans?
No, I wasn't. What was I doing Saturday afternoon? I didn't watch. Might have been out somewhere, I think. It was. It wasn't a massively exciting qualifying. No real big incidents. There was one red flag in Q1, from what I recall. But which is surprising. I guess was it last year we had like constant red flags, didn't we? So all the drivers are a bit more cautious this year, it would seem.
I mean, usually in Baku, it's one red flag brings another and then brings another, all the same kind of with the safety car. But we didn't see that. We definitely saw it in F2. I don't know if you watched any of that, but we definitely didn't really see it that much in F1. Myself and Joshua both predicted Verstappen. So my run continues of getting 0 pole positions correct this year. And then Callum Owen also got Leclerc. So a point for him. Let's talk about the race where it finished Max Verstappen winning it, Sergio Perez in second, George Russell third. Before we talk about kind of anything that we predicted, you must have been loving it after turn one and that start from Sergio Perez.
Yes, it was very exciting. For a moment, you saw the big puff of smoke as Leclerc locked up, and you thought, "Oh no, don't go into the wall." He just about made it, but obviously predicted Sergio to win the race, and I was like, "Oh, hello there. This is looking tasty." And then it all fell apart pretty much after the first lap. So. Got him. But again, Sergio showing his pace in quali. So, yeah, all good.
And they weren't allowed to fight the Red Bulls. I think was it lap 10, 15, something like that Max overtook him. And kind of Sergio Perez didn't really even bother defending it. What did you make of that? Because I think it was more team orders by the looks of it, was it?
Yeah, it seems to be that way. So I was maybe... I think you watched the highlights more recently than I did. Did Max overtake Sergio before Leclerc broke down, or was it after?
Yes, yeah, it was before.
It was before. Oh, okay. Because I was going to say if it was afterwards, then I would have found that call very strange. But I can understand it beforehand because it's like, they're still racing another car. They want to make sure that at least one of them gets it. Max was clearly the quicker driver on Sunday, so I don't mind that strategy call being made then. It is annoying though, isn't it? Because you think, if it happened afterwards, then I think they would have said, okay, you can fight, just don't hit each other, basically. Just unfortunate. But yeah, Sergio didn't seem too unhappy after the race. He understood the decision that was taken. So not like in Spain where it was just straight up team orders. So.
I think letting them race and saying don't hit each other is probably never guaranteed when Max Verstappen is in one of the cars. I mean, I don't want to be critical of him, but we obviously all saw what happened last year and probably in years previously as well. There's kind of various incidents that we could point to as well. We didn't get an iconic Max Verstappen moment this year after he crashed last year and obviously kicked the tyre, which kind of became a massive meme. It was a fairly straightforward win, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was as soon as both Ferraris conked out, the race was over. In terms of, well, not in terms of everywhere, because there was a couple of battles in the midfield, but yeah, in terms of the leader of the race, as soon as Sainz went, it was like, okay, it's a three-way fight, and then as soon as Leclerc went, it was a two-way fight, and then a second later, Leclerc was like 5 seconds clear of Sergio, so you were like, oh no, it's over. So yeah, a bit annoying, not the firecracker that I think a lot of people expected Baku to be, which I feel is becoming a bit of a trend now. We keep hyping up certain tracks to be really good, and they're not. And then the ones we're not hyping up are actually doing really well. Like Monaco and Spain have been probably the two best races this season. And they're the circuits that most people would say need to get off the calendar. Well, certainly Josh would, but not here to defend that. So.
I know we're going to talk about Canada a little bit later on, but when we do, should we really downplay it? Say it's going to be absolutely awful, and then hopefully we will get like the hands down best race of the season to talk about, which will probably be a bad thing going to Silverstone because then that will probably be awful. So let's probably I don't know. Let's maybe not do that. We'll have to see. In terms of things that happened in the race, obviously the Ferraris are the big talking point. Two failures. It seems like. Sainz's was a BBW, some kind of brake failure. I never really understand what that means in terms of brake bar wire, whatever it's called. And then Leclerc was an engine failure. And then we also saw two more Ferrari powered cars. We obviously saw Zhou retire, and did one of the Hasses retire as well? I think with some kind of power problem. You probably know more what's going on with the Ferrari power units than I do.
I don't think I do, to be honest. I don't think Ferrari do either, to be honest. It was kind of crazy. It was a terrible weekend for them, not just for the team, but for the whole constructor, losing both of them, and then both Sainz and Leclerc going out, and then Zhou went, and then it was K-Mag. Proper commentator's curse. It was like K-Mag is catching up on I think it was Sonoda. Is it catching up on Sonoda? Could he make the overtake? And then literally 2 corners later, he started slowing down. The ultimate commentator's curse. I loved it, but really, really strange. And it's funny as well how start of the season it was all, oh my god, is Red Bull's reliability going to be costing them the championship? And now literally like 4 races later, it's like, oh, it's Ferrari's mechanical issues that cost them the championship. So I don't think there's any consistency this season at all, and which I quite like. I think it makes the season more unpredictable. Annoyingly, though, it has kind of allowed a certain Dutch driver to run away with the championship a little bit. And I do fear if he wins again this weekend, I think this championship could be over already. I don't see Ferrari really recovering from this. And even if they do, I think Red Bull will get stronger as the season goes on, as they always typically do. So slightly concerned this championship is going to be a lot less interesting from now on.
And I think probably none of us expected to have a similar championship to the one we had last year, but I think we wanted one to last a bit longer than 9 races or something like that. Let's talk about some of the other things that happened in the race. And your prediction in particular, where Sebastian Vettel, I think it's fair to say, had a pretty good race in the Aston Martin. You predicted both Astons to finish in the points, which is never a good prediction when Lance Stroll isn't one of them, as he DNF'd. But Seb had a pretty good race.
Now he always tends to do quite well at Baku. So I should have just gone with him to score points, but I thought it's not going to be. That'll be too safe. Let's go for both Astons. But he seems to be doing well. It's again kind of funny how a few races ago people are going, oh, is this going to be the last year of Vettel? Is he going to retire? He appears to be wanting to do a bit more campaigning for politics and all that kind of stuff. And then he's put in some really good performances in the last couple of races. So yeah, I don't know. I think Seb's kind of in a frame of mind of I just want to enjoy my racing. I think that the less pressure that's on him now is actually kind of helping him a little bit. And he's kind of earned the right to kind of say what he wants within reason, obviously. But yeah, no, he actually appears to be in a very like a bit of a zen mode right now. If that kind of makes any sense. Looks very at ease with what he's doing. So yeah, no, it's nice to see actually. Yeah.
I mean, I was as you were saying that, I was thinking there he's just kind of becoming a happy Kimi Raikkonen, where obviously Raikkonen said towards the end of his career he was doing it, 2 or 3 years before the end. He said it was a hobby for him, and obviously Seb's much better with the media and stuff like that than probably Kimi was, and good to see him enjoying himself as well. And I'm sure, particularly when we're around Silverstone in a few weeks' time, I'm sure we'll see him doing something similar like he did last year, where I think he went into one of the grandstands and helped litter pick as well. From a kind of serious Sebastian Vettel who's enjoying himself. Somebody that wasn't enjoying himself on Sunday was Yuki Tsunoda, and I found quite funny the way his rear wing was just kind of taped together when he came into the pits. I mean, what was going on?
I love that we've had DRS in F1 for over a decade now, and it still just baffles the engineers and the mechanics. They have no clue what to do if it goes wrong. I remember very early on, maybe like 2013 or something, Alonso's got like stuck open at a race, pulled into the pits, and the mechanic just like pushed it down and went straight down. And then the following lap, he opened it again, and obviously it got stuck open again. And then they were literally just having to like ram it down basically, and just told him like, just whatever you do, don't press the DRS button, as tempting as it may be. But yeah, it was just kind of bizarre, wasn't it? Let's just get some gaffer tape and see if I love Sonoda's reaction on the radio, just like, what the F is this? What the hell are you doing to my rear wing?
Yeah, that was quite funny.
Yeah.
I think you see things on Twitter, people tweeting about all these kind of modern things that are happening in F1, or the technology we have, and then for the mechanics to just come out and just let's just wrap some tape around it and see how that goes. And I think I don't know what nationality most of the AlphaTauri mechanics are. Probably maybe Italian, something like that. But kind of a British thing would be that. It just seemed like a very British thing to do. Yeah, we'll just put some tape on it. It'll be fine. It's kind of like the old turn it off and turn it back on again, and it'll all be okay. I think that's pretty much everything from Baku. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to talk about or wanted to add.
Not that I can think of really. As I say, it was just not a very, very uneventful race in the end. There's a bit of news that's come out in this week. I don't know if you had this on your list. Very strong rumors saying Oscar Piastri is going to be given a race seat next year. Not to Alpine, though, at Williams, in fact. They're going to try and loan him there for at least a season, with Latifi likely to drop out. There is a rumor that Piastri could actually be racing at Silverstone, although they kind of rubbish that and said it's probably not going to happen. I think people want that to happen, but it is going to happen though. But that was the only kind of major news that really came out of Baku. That and obviously the whole porpoising thing, which is just dominating the headlines.
Yeah, well, on that, I had last week for my wild prediction, Latifi to crash at the castle. That didn't happen, sadly. The other wild predictions, we obviously talked about yours, double Aston points. That didn't happen. Joshua predicted Ricciardo to finish ahead of Norris, which just happened. Ricciardo P8, Norris P9. And then Callum O predicted somebody with an S to cause the red flag. And I think it was somebody with an S that caused the red flag in qualifying. I can't quite remember who it was or what happened because I haven't watched it back. But Callum tells me that did happen, and I will go back and double check. Obviously, it definitely didn't happen in the race, but we'll go back and double check that one. And if that did happen, this is how the prediction tables looks. Callum, my friend, you're still leading it, 12 points. You've got a 2-point lead over Joshua in second, who's on 10, and it gets a little bit closer. Callum O is on 8, and I'm still bottom on 7, so I need to kind of up my game a little bit. I remember last year when we didn't have this prediction table, nobody would send in predictions if they weren't available for the episode, and now people are like making sure they get them in because we've got Joshua and Callum's for a little bit later on, so it shows that competitive edge that we've all got in us. Let's talk about Oscar Piastri then. A fantastic young driver, and I remember he obviously won F2 last year and said, his last race in F2, the interviewer, I think it was probably, I don't know who it was, Rosanna Tennant, someone like that, was like, okay, so what's your plan now? And he's like, well, I've just won this championship and now I've got to sit on the sofa for a year. So it shows that determination that he's got to get into F1. And as you said, it looks like it could be happening soon.
Yeah, so as I think this is the race who have reported this, who everyone seems to kind of trust them that they know what they're saying. So they've basically said he agreed to be the reserve driver this year on the proviso that they found him a race seat for 2023. We all thought Alonso was going to retire and then he would step into partner Ocon, who is contracted for next year already. Turns out that is not going to be the case. He's going to be kind of loaned to Williams, kind of in the same way that Mercedes initially loaned Ocon to Renault, and then he's just switched over there permanently now. So he's going to be there next year. And yeah, as you say, terrific racer, obviously F2 champion, risen through the ranks very quickly, very highly rated. Another Aussie on the grid, which would be good. Haven't had two Aussies on the grid since Webber and Ricciardo at the start of the last decade, I don't think. So yeah, it'd be good to have him there. And as you say, yeah, it is likely to be Latifi, given just how slow he is. The only problem that could emerge is obviously Latifi brings a lot of sponsorship with him to the team, probably more than Albon does. And of course, it should be noted, Albon is still technically part of the Red Bull family, so they could move him to AlphaTauri if they wanted to. I don't know if that would happen though. But yeah, I can't imagine Latifi hanging around much longer. Yeah, and as I said, there was the rumor that he could be coming back in for Silverstone, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah.
I mean, has Latifi always been this slow? I mean, we obviously know that he's been with George Russell throughout his whole time at Williams, and Russell's quality and the way he kind of outdrove the car that he was in obviously shone through, and everyone was just like, oh, okay, yeah, Latifi's there, that's fine. But now he's up against Albon, who's obviously nowhere near as talented as Russell, or maybe you could say he probably is, but who knows. Yeah, do you think it's time to have that Nicholas Latifi conversation? And has he always been as kind of slow as he is, and we're now only just noticing it because he's so far behind and he's probably crashing a lot more than he was?
I mean, he is definitely everyone is technically a pay driver, but he is a very notable example of a pay driver in F1. Had an okay junior career, so he's not like he's just completely bought his seat. He has got some talent behind him. But yeah, I think when he got the drive ahead of other people in F2, it was a bit like, ugh. Okay, George Russell, I think anyone would look quite bad. Even look at Lewis Hamilton this season, I guess. But I think yes, the Williams car has never been particularly great. Latifi has finished in the points twice so far in his career, which kind of shows you how slow the Williams is. But then you look at this season, Latifi's best finish was 15th, and Albon has finished in the points twice in the opening 8 races now. So yeah, I think that kind of shows the gap. And yeah, look, I'm sure he's a lovely guy. I'm sure he obviously does have talent behind him. You don't get to F1 with no talent, but yeah, if you were to rank all the drivers based on pace alone, I think Latifi would be bottom for most people. So.
I mean, I don't want to drag this on too long because there's people now online that are having conversations about Mick Schumacher as well, who's starting to I guess struggle a little bit, but he's up against maybe a much better teammate than he was in Mazepin, and we're now seeing that struggle. But I think that's maybe a conversation for another day, because we've got more things to talk about and not a lot of time to talk about it in. The next thing that I want to talk about, like you mentioned earlier, is the bouncing, the porpoising that seems to be happening. Lewis Hamilton saying it was the worst race ever that he'd ever driven in terms of how uncomfortable it was, how his back felt pretty bad. There were kind of doubts that he was going to race this weekend. I think those have been pretty much pushed out the window, and be very surprising not to see him, carry out the full weekend in Canada. But I suppose the main question is it the FIA's job to change the regulations to stop this bouncing, or is it Mercedes' job to fix it themselves, because everybody else seems to have just about got over it?
Well, this is the big talking point now, and this is what Christian Horner, being Christian Horner, has come out and said, I think they're exaggerating how bad it is, to kind of, get them to tweak the rules a bit. To which he then said, oh, and by the way, if this was happening with my team, I'd 100% get them to exaggerate this.
Yeah.
That's just, which, look, you can't moan about them doing it and then say, yeah, but I totally do the same thing. It's like, no, you need to either take the moral high ground or don't. Like,
Yeah.
you can't have your cake and eat it here. But it is a bit of both, because obviously other teams, Red Bull especially, obviously have managed to seemingly are not affected by the issue too much. Although we are obviously now hearing Gasly and Sainz and Ricardo and a few other drivers kind of saying, yeah, the bouncing's bad for us, and I am having back pains as well. Obviously, Lewis and Mercedes have it the worst, and perhaps that's why we're hearing about it so much more. But the fact is, this is now a safety matter. It wasn't just a performance thing. It is the fact that Lewis is having to have like intense acupuncture like every day, basically, just to like keep moving around. I think kind of shows, okay, something needs to be done about it. Now, obviously, you need to find a solution that everyone's going to be happy with. And I think even Horner just says, just lift the cars up or raise the ride height or whatever they need to do. So I'm sure there is a solution to be found. Will they find it? I don't know, to be honest. Not before Canada, at least. So.
I mean, how many races are we away from the summer break? It must be, quite a few, because my thought would maybe be give them a track day or two, a day of testing or whatever, to try and, just let them keep going around on the track until, let them keep making changes until they find a way out of it. But they've had plenty of time to kind of do that already, I suppose. I don't know. I think finding a solution for it's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, they've always said, oh, we're bringing upgrades every race, we're going to bring changes every race, and it just doesn't seem to have done anything. In fact, some of said it actually got worse. Like, I know Baku's probably going to be the worst track for it, because A, you've got that ridiculous long straight, and B, it's a street circuit where it's really bumpy. So again, another reason why street circuits shouldn't be on the calendar, but that's another thing entirely.
That's a conversation for another day.
We are still doing that pod at one stage. It's as someone said, like, if you watch the porpoising in the opening rounds, it was kind of like these really like smooth but like bouncing, basically. And then you get to like Baku, and it's just someone described it as like a basketball just going up and down. It just looks that bad, and it's just, you look at that and you think, how are they even like just driving normally, like let alone at 200 miles an hour? Yeah, exactly. So ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, let's hope. I think if nothing comes this year, I mean, there's definitely got to be a slight, we have slight tweaks in the regulations every year that to kind of force the teams to make upgrades and stuff like that. But obviously, like you said, this is a kind of a safety matter, and hopefully that tweak comes, if not soon, then definitely for the regulations next year. The other piece of news is that Formula One is looking and closing in on a deal for a race in South Africa next year at Kyalami, I think is the way you pronounce it. I hope that's right. It'll obviously be the first time that we've been there for some time now, probably 30 years, something like that.
30 years.
Yeah. How good is that for the sport?
Oh, it's brilliant. I actually didn't hear this bit of news. I'd heard it like a month ago. I didn't realize that there's obviously got a lot further in it. Brilliant. Brilliant news. It's a world championship. We should have a race on every continent. Kyalami is probably the best place we can go in Africa. Last race there was in 1993.
Correct.
Correct. There you go then. It'd be really good. The circuit looks really cool. Obviously, they need to get it up to the Grade 1 safety license, which they are trying to do at the moment, which should be fun. And looking forward to it. Of course, what does that mean for the actual calendar as a whole? I'm not so sure, because obviously we're going to get up to 20. Oh, right, go for it then.
Well, this is just what the BBC is saying, that obviously there's been no race in Africa since that 1993. And obviously that could mean we see a 24-race calendar, which will obviously be the longest season ever. But apparently this could depend on whether China is going to come back. And apparently if both China and South Africa come back, we could see Belgium being taken away, which is... very, very controversial. I don't think would go down very well within the F1 community. Something else that probably we don't need to discuss and that will go down quite well is that the French Grand Prix is expected to be dropped if South Africa and China come back in. I don't think we're too bothered about that one, but we can't lose Spa, can we?
We're going to, aren't we? Let's just admit now. Let's admit defeat now.
I think it's safety, isn't it?
Yeah. It's this is going to really rile up F1 fans if we lose Spa, because it's not like there are some circuits that I think we would love to see on F1, but we kind of acknowledge, but we can live without. Like, I don't mind not going to Turkey. I don't mind not going to Malaysia, even though I love those tracks. But losing Spa would be just devastating. And I think it's not just that it's one of the best tracks on the calendar, it's one of the best places to go on the calendar. I went there back in 2016, and this is when the Orange Army and Verstappen's followers had only just started out.
Yeah.
And it was mad there. We see it now with the orange flares everywhere, but like even back then it was just incredible. And to lose Spa, I think you'd be losing, essentially, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say you'd be losing like F1 soul, basically. I think there are 4 circuits on the calendar that must always be there. That'd be Silverstone, Monaco, Spa and Monza. And to lose kind of one of those 4, I think would be a real tragedy. So.
I mean, my timer's just come on the screen saying that we've got 10 minutes left. So, I mean, we could talk about this for a long time yet. And I'm sure the other 2 guys would probably agree that we can't lose Spa from the calendar. The other thing I did want to touch on, it was a 24 race calendar, but I don't think we're going to have time with everything else that we've got to fit in. I think it would be pretty ludicrous, wouldn't it, to have that amount of races on the calendar. But great for us fans, but for the teams, very quickly a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. 22 is the max I think we can do.
Cool. So let's move on to one of those 22 races that are happening this year. Or is it 21 now with Russia gone? I think it's 22, isn't it? It was 23. Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about that. Anyway, let's talk about Canada. Am I right in saying that we've not been there since Sebastian Vettel's when he got that penalty a few years ago and swapped round the finishing signs in Parc Ferme?
God, that seems like a million years ago.
I know. Was that 2019?
Yeah, it was 2019.
Yeah,
what a moment that was. God, I remember watching that. And again, I was never a huge Sebastian Vettel fan, but my God, I loved that moment so much. I still feel the stewards got the right decision that day though, but I loved the bit of shit house afterwards.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
It was just a massive middle finger up to the stewards, wasn't it? It was like, I'm not standing for this whatsoever. Picked up the sign, put it next to each other, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it sparked a bit of a rivalry between Hamilton and Vettel, but it was certainly quite entertaining to watch and quite funny, and must have caused a bit of tension in the paddock afterwards. So yeah, I don't think, well, who knows, we might not see that kind of drama this weekend. We might. But what are your thoughts on Canada overall? Obviously, we've not been there for a long time. The main thing I think of is kind of straight chicane, straight chicane, straight chicane, straight hairpin, straight chicane, start finish straight. That's kind of the way the track kind of goes. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I like it enough. Good Grand Prix, bad Grand Prix every now. So it's a real mix. You don't know what you're going to get with Canada. But always good. Again, it's a great venue to go to. Very picturesque location. Fans always seem to love it when they go there. And again, this is one that I'd be very sad if it went off the calendar. And again, with 2 Canadian drivers on the grid, granted not 2 great ones, it makes more sense than ever to go to Canada now.
And we obviously know we've got the iconic Wall of Champions, and we've had a new world champion added to the list since we last went to Canada. Is Max Verstappen going to be claimed by the Wall of Champions at the weekend, do you think?
I'm not sure if he was claimed before, to be honest, in a practice session or something. Possibly. So, Wall of Champions is a bit of an exaggeration, I think, because it was just one race where it was Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, and Michael Schumacher all crashed into it. I think it was in '99, and then since then it was obviously the Wall of Champions. But not many champions have crashed into it since, at least not during a race. I think Vettel did in the practice session once, but yeah, very again another great quirk of the circuit we love. And again, another reason to go there.
I think the Wall of Champions is a much better name for it than turn 15 and 16, or whatever corner number it is. Let's just call it that. Right, cool. Let's move straight on into our predictions then. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, I've still not got a pole position right, so I think it's got to happen at some time. You said earlier that Ferrari have got the fastest car. I agree with you. I've gone with Charles Leclerc to take pole. And just for the record, Callum Owen has also gone for Charles Leclerc, and Joshua has also gone for Charles Leclerc. Are you going to make it a clean sweep for quali?
Yes, I am. Charles Leclerc on pole.
So that means it's now going to be Max Verstappen. Let's move on to the race result. Your top three for the Canadian Grand Prix on Sunday evening as well, I must add.
I haven't written anything down, so this will be fun. Let's go with, you know what? It's time that he catches a break. Let's give Charles Leclerc the win. And let's go Max Verstappen second. And let's put Sergio Perez third.
It's always going to happen, wasn't it? Let's be honest. So have you gone Leclerc, Max Perez? You have, haven't you?
I certainly have, yes.
Yeah, that is exactly the same as Callum Owen's prediction. Leclerc, Max Perez, that's what he's gone with.
Synergy.
Joshua has gone slightly different. He's gone Max Leclerc Perez. And I've gone with a Ferrari 1-2. They don't really need to get revenge on anyone, but as in to kind of just bounce back after a terrible Baku. I've gone Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen. So very interesting that you two have gone with the same predictions. There's no way you could have known that as well, because you've not seen. I mean, Callum did put it in the group chat. So have you just gone on and stolen his prediction just to maintain your lead at the top?
Honestly, no, I've just made that up on the
spot. In terms of your wild predictions, I mean, you making a wild prediction up on the spot could be very wild indeed. I was torn between two. I'll go with the other two guys first. Joshua has gone with Russell to finish, I think, further down than P5. I think he said outside the top five. I will double check that one because I've just written Russell P5. So I think that's what that meant. And Callum Owen has gone with both Alpines to qualify in the top 7, which I know Joshua certainly wouldn't agree with based on his preseason predictions, and nor would I. And my prediction, I'm torn between two because of obviously Vettel's moment. I don't know whether to go Vettel top 5 or both Canadian drivers in the top 10.
Whoa.
Or because I'm bottom, can I have both?
I can tell you what's wilder.
Yeah. I think that, well, with Vettel P6 last weekend, I'm kind of like, is that wild? And if Joshua's wild comes true of Russell finishing outside the top 5, surely it's going to be Vettel that takes that 5th.
Do yourself a favour, Matt, and go for that. Don't go for the team to finish the points.
If I was in your position, I would have 100% gone for both Canadians in the top 10. But I'm not. I'm going to go with Vettel top 5. As I said, Callum's gone for both Alpines at the top 7. Russell lower than P5 is what Joshua's gone with. Let's have your wild prediction for the Canadian Grand Prix.
All right, given the limited time, I'm going to have to rush this. Okay, I did think of this before the pod. So, what do we love about the Canadian Grand Prix? Is it the great racing? Is it the great, the history of the circuit? No. It's the wildlife. Every year, groundhogs invade that track, and they have to bring in specialists to make sure they don't do it. But obviously, a few escape the traps every year. And given we've been away for 2 years, COVID, nature has taken over certain places of the world. I'm thinking we're going to see a lot more groundhogs this weekend than usual. I'm going to go with minimum 3 groundhogs to invade the track at all points of the weekend. So
very good. That means you're gonna have to watch every single session.
Yep. Or the highlights usually show the groundhogs anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Quite interesting practices. So there you go. That's my thing. 3 groundhogs all weekend.
I suppose you will be able to watch pretty much all the sessions unless you're doing anything in the evenings at the weekend, because they are all evening sessions. I think the race is at 7 p.m. UK time, which is quite a nice time. It means I would actually be able to go to work at the weekend and not miss anything, or have to turn the group chat notifications off, which I usually have to do on a Sunday, because Joshua always puts something in that spoils it. Cool. So that's pretty much everything I think that we've got to cover. I thought genuinely after your Miami prediction that you were going to go with a number amount of shots for is it a river or a lake that's kind of next to the track that they usually kind of do all the TV coverage from?
Yeah,
I thought you were going to go for something like that, similar to Miami, but that would have been kind of unoriginal after your Miami prediction. So I
Yeah.
think groundhogs invading the track would be very interesting. And obviously they've not seen these new 2022 F1 cars, so they'll be excited to go and see them. Cool. That's pretty much everything from the two of us. We've only got a minute left, so I better wrap up there. Thank you very much for listening or watching if you had. Apologies if you listened last week and the audio was absolutely terrible. That was Joshua's fault. Yeah, it was. So it could have been one of our mics echoing. I don't know, but we think it was Joshua's fault. So yeah, I better shut up now before I get kicked out of this call. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Callum for joining me. And until Silverstone next time, we will see you all later. Bye-bye.